Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Big Finish Fans. In today's Big Finish Fans, we've got a bit of a bonanza, a bit of a special one, talking about some of the Big Finish spin-offs, what Big Finish do, really. Once again, I am joined with Luke.
Yes, hello everyone. This is sort of something to cover a fair few recent releases like Dive River Song, Two Rivers and a Firewall, and the Unit, Brave New World, Seabird One set, while also looking back at just ranges as a whole, some old favourites like Jago and Lightfoot, and just share some love about really. So, yeah, how have you been, Ben?
I've been all right. Done a little bit of Doctor Who stuff. Watched Frontios. That was nice. That was cool. I was in
You're in the
the
mood for some
mood for.
Davison. Yeah.
I was in the mood for some Davison preparation for 42 Autumn Infinity. So I was like, oh, watch that.
Yeah, it's the right lot of companions, isn't it? The right era. Yeah, we were
Well,
saying
Chameleon.
he's missing, but
He was missing anyway, so it's fine.
I mean, he's in the cupboard somewhere.
Yeah, he's there. He's there in spirit.
Yeah, I mean, presumably he got blown up with the time. I didn't quite think that one through, perhaps, but
I know.
Oh,
he was probably in a different cupboard somewhere.
Yeah, he's like in a cupboard that's in a separate dimension from the TARDIS. Like the TARDIS is its own dimension, and you got dimensions beyond that.
I'm sure there's a short trip in that. I'm sure there's going to be a little thing in that.
Yeah, Paul Marks, perhaps he likes those funny little interludes of what did this character do during this story.
There we go. Get on it, Big Finish.
I mean, apparently, I only saw recently that Hi-Fi, the panda, Stephen's panda.
Oh yeah.
From, Paul Marks wrote a short story set during the War Games where Hi-Fi escaped the TARDIS, wound up with Iris Wildtime, gained sentience, and became Panda from the Iris Wildtime series.
That's one hell of a backstory. Jeez.
I think it's called The Runaway Hi-Fi.
Okay. Is it like in a book?
I believe so.
Okay. It's got to be a book. Got to be.
I think it was on that Wild Moments in Doctor Who History Twitter account, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I definitely saw it somewhere out on Twitter.
That's definitely wild, for sure.
Yeah. That's just the fun, obscure depths that these things go to.
We didn't need it, but hey, you got your answer. What happened to the
we had fun with it, at least.
Oh, yeah. Can have a good chuckle about it.
Yeah.
So.
I think that's one of the funny things. It's almost more entertaining to just see that synopsis and have a laugh at it than it is to perhaps have read the story in a way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Paul Marks is a brilliant writer, so I'm sure it's a great story as well. But it's almost funnier just knowing that and then not knowing any more detail.
I think it kind of ruins the fun if you actually know the full story.
Yeah.
I think it's just fun to guess what part did Hi-Fi leave the War Games? Yeah. What war zone did he get left in?
It's like when you look into those really weird, obscure bits of Star Wars Legends. Like, there's some mad stuff going on there. Like, if you ever are in the mood for a Star Wars creepypasta, look up the story of Nobot, spelt robot with an N.
Okay.
It's something interesting. It was like, I think it was when they were allowing fan submissions for an encyclopedia or something for background characters during the Phantom Menace, and someone saw this really creepy protocol droid in the background, so came up with this very messed up backstory, and it's canon to Legends. So,
well, it's canon.
They let anything fly those days, but yeah, it's quite something.
I'll have to check that out. How about yourself? What have you been up to?
I've been getting ready for a different Big Finish set this month. I've been rewatching The Claws of Axos, having a very good time with that in preparation for Quantum of Axos. Although that's not quite what got me in the mood for it. What actually got me in the mood for it was reading the Vortex article on the upcoming Kaleidoscope and hearing Alan Barnes say about how when usually Big Finish writers go to recreate the Third Doctor era, they'll try to channel, say, Robert Holmes or Malcolm Hulk, the Goliaths of the Pertwee era. But one or two writers, actually, who are not often channeled as much and picked are Bob Baker and Dave Martin. So he says he went for what if those two wrote for a season 11 story. And so that's what we're getting with Kaleidoscope. And just hearing that sort of put me in the mood to stick on Claws of Axos again. And it just happily married up with Quantum of Axos, the 10th Doctor story coming out this month. But yeah, that's a great deal of fun. And I see, while we're on that, are we diving into a bit of news?
I was thinking, since we're on it, it'd be a bit rude to ignore it.
Yeah. I mean, I've sort
just to
sort of
load
covered
it up,
haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah. Load it up because my internet seems to be dying at the minute.
Yeah, best get to it while we can.
Yeah, am I disappearing? There we go. There it is.
Oh, here we go. There it is.
There we go. Look at Tim and John. Very happy people.
Yeah. I mean, we already love the cover for this set. That's brilliant. And now we have the confirmation of Stephen Noonan, which we've known for a while, thanks to him dropping that little tidbit when he joined us for the Outlaws review, wasn't it? Not joined us in person, but joined us in the chat.
Yes. Yeah. Which was nice.
And also on the cast list, we have Christopher Naylor.
Christopher Naylor
as Harry Sullivan. So, yeah, I mean, this is something I don't remember whether we talked about it either live or off air, or maybe we even sent it as a message over chat, but we definitely spoke at some point about, wouldn't it be fun to have Harry Sullivan in a Third Doctor story, because he's there in Planet of Spiders, like off screen, technically.
He's name checked.
So he's working for UNIT at the time. Wouldn't it be fun for them to work out a way to fit Harry in for like a cameo or something? And lo and behold, they already did it. They already recorded it, and here it is.
Yeah, just proof that Big Finish read our messages and go,
yeah, there we
that's
go.
a good idea. Let's put that in.
Let's nick it.
Let's nick it for sure.
I mean, what do you think of the synopsis for this story?
I get very sort of mutant vibes off it, with Kaleidoscope reminding me of Kai from it. It feels very mutant-esque, which fits the Bob Baker, Dave Martin thing, like you're saying.
So it's going to be interesting. Send up of it with this Space Messiah just doing an interview with about what's coming for the end of the world. There's something. It's that similar vibe to their pitch for a carrot landing in Hyde Park.
Yes,
and that eventually turning into Claws of Axos. It's got that same sort of fun ridiculousness to it.
And you can sort of imagine it a bit like the Daemons, when they're all sort of huddled around the TV watching that, really.
Yeah. It certainly seems like it's going to have a few layers to it, I think.
Which you need for a six-parter.
Yeah, definitely.
You want it to have legs and...
Yeah. Feel how epic this one gets.
And I think the second Third Doctor set, well, the first of next year's bunch, is meant to be another world hopper.
Hopefully with Joe this time, because so we've got Liz in a big chunky 7-parter. We've got Sarah now in a big chunky 6-parter. Let's get Joe in on the action. Give her a 6-parter.
I think that's got to be the next logical step, really, isn't it?
Yeah. It's also funny to think that this 6-parter could easily be longer than the Annihilators.
Yeah, oh God, yeah. Because how they sort of put it on the disc, I think that they can get away with a 6-parter being a bit longer, couldn't they?
I mean, certainly God of Phantoms 6-parter, and that's definitely longer than Annihilators a 7-parter. It's just funny, when you think 7-parter, you instantly think bigger than a 6-parter, but on audio, where there's no there is a runtime limit in terms of what you can squeeze on a disc, but it's not quite as strict as Classic Who had with the 25 minutes and then you're done.
But God of Phantoms felt longer than 6 episodes.
Yeah.
It drags
I mean,
terribly.
yeah, I didn't want to mention it, but not the best. Can't recommend that one.
Yeah, that's the. Is it on sale now, that one? Because I know there's a Tom sale going on.
I don't think so. I think it's only the first 3 for the Pinchcliffs and the first 5 of Fourth Doctor Adventures.
Okay. I mean, if it was on sale, don't pick it up. It's not worth your time.
No.
But yeah, I guess moving on to the news. The other bits of news we have.
Yeah, got a couple of other little bits. It's been a fairly dry month for Big Finish, hasn't it? Maybe just with everyone going off on their holidays.
Maybe, and then on that, or the centenary special, sort of going, look, don't do any big news. We don't want to divert attention. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be it. But then we've got box sets coming out in November that we still don't know much about, like Nemesis 3 and the 7th Doctor Adventures. So presumably I've got to give us details at some point. But we're still getting details of something coming out March next year.
Yes. Andy Mahindra joins the 4th Doctor Adventures.
There's something quite heartwarming about the thought of them 2 recording together, isn't there? Just because of that special connection.
Yeah, considering like the connection of Liz. Yeah.
It's like the 2 generations from Liz's life in a way.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Really.
But
it's like it's the mentee's mentee, isn't it? Or the mentor's mentor, depending which way you look at it.
Yeah. Oh. It's very full circle, isn't it?
Yeah. Although not playing Rani, but we are getting
that would have been even nice.
We are getting her back in that role just a month after this comes out, actually. But this was recorded way before that was ever even planned, I imagine, because this is back in like 2018, I think. This is going to be the second of the Leela and Margaret Hopwood adventures. So,
do you know which story she's going to be in?
Anjali Mahindra.
Yeah.
It's this one because they announced both of them separately. So it's Antilia the Lost, and then they've already announced all the cast for the first story.
Ice Heist.
I think Ice Heist, that's it.
Yeah,
I think she's also playing a journalist in this one, actually.
Even more full circle.
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be nice.
So it seems to have a bit more of a futuristic setting to it.
It'd be nice to listen to those extras if those 2 are together chatting about Liz.
Yeah, it should be some heartwarming stuff. But for now, it seems like an okay story. Like the synopsis doesn't get me too excited, but at the same time, I don't read it and think, well, this sounds like rubbish. It just feels like, fairly standard synopsis affair, and then we'll see where it goes with the actual story. It's funny, isn't it? Sometimes a cover can give you more than a synopsis can, or at least more to get excited about.
I mean, that's a good thing. The 4th Doctor still has individual cover art, so you can still get that buzz of going, okay, that's what that story's about.
Yeah. There's the last series of it, though, it seems.
You think?
Yeah, because after this, it's switching into 3 discs a set, so it probably will go for the same style that...
the 9 worked fine, though, didn't it?
Yeah, but that was 5 discs.
Well, yeah.
With a extra one thrown in there. We can wait and see.
Just have to wait. Yeah, just have to see how we get on.
I feel like that's more because these were planned so far in advance. They weren't quite made to fit the relaunch era, whereas Series 13 is going to be the 4th Doctor fully integrating into that.
The relaunch happens this year, but you're not going to get Tom's relaunch for a fair bit.
No. We've had a fair few releases. Jekyll and Hyde, after a long, long while, has finally been released.
Yes.
It felt like
Was it
it was a bit of a
2016?
running
Was it
joke.
first?
Yeah, perhaps. Maybe
Yeah.
2017.
Yeah, definitely got to be that.
I mean, did you pick it up?
No.
Nah,
It got a video trailer. I was like, that it did better than most Doctor Who releases. It actually got a trailer.
Yeah. Oh, it's meant to be one of the most authentic adaptations of the original book.
Because I thought it was from like the stage thing what Nick Briggs directed a couple of years ago, I think.
I think that, yeah, there is that as well. We could use that as a basis. After doing that, probably just thought, wouldn't this be a good audio drama? And then took about 5 years to get around to actually making it after announcing it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm glad that people who ordered it have finally got it. And it's not been that sort of joke in their account going, when's that going to happen? But yeah, I'm glad people can enjoy it.
Yeah. Torchwood Suckers as well. That's got an interesting addition to the synopsis. It's got like an extra content warning on there. Like, it's not just this might be unsuitable for younger listeners and such. It's got like more specific content warnings. I can't remember quite what they are. Let's have a look. Themes regarding mental health topics such as psychosis and anorexia and may not be suitable for younger listeners. There you go. So
okay.
I think hopefully they start doing that for more releases as well, because I think it is important for those who are unsure about
Just
these
sort of trigger warnings,
things.
isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's important to have those, especially because adult content can range from so many different things, really. And so to be a bit more specific on those details can help a lot of people decide whether they want to listen or not. It's funny having it on the disc, though. Still read by Eve Miles, because by that point you're screwed. You bought it anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, I
Just
don't
listen to it now.
She's just been recast. They'll probably recast Gwen soon.
But they already kind of did that.
Oh yeah, they did. Yeah, true.
Other Gwen, or not Gwen, isn't it? NG.
Yeah. That's true.
I can't remember the actress's name. She was in Poison of the Daleks as well.
Is it Alexandra Riley?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's done a few things for him. I mean, maybe Eve will be back at some point.
Never know.
I mean, certainly more chance of her than a certain other Torchwood actor. So,
oh, we go in there, are we? Okay.
Well, we were sort of skirting along that line, so
yeah,
I had to come up eventually.
Torchwood has lived on in another means in the form of Torchwood Soho.
It has indeed, and we've got a cover.
It's a very nice cover.
It is quite possibly my favourite of the year. Definitely top 3. It is a gorgeous cover.
Beats the Annihilator cover for you?
Maybe. I don't. Like I say, top 3.
I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't. I feel like the Annihilators is still my favourite cover of the year.
I feel like Annihilators probably gets the edge because of the Pertwee nostalgia. Like, I think the iconography of it, like, not just for you, but for me as well, it has that going for it. Yeah. I think this might be the more beautiful looking cover if you remove that.
It's got a creepy looking nurse. I wouldn't say that's pleasing on the eye.
Not pleasing on the eye as such, but going. It's a very well made cover. And it gives off that very Hammer horror vibe to it.
Yeah.
I mean, I much prefer it to the first 2 Torchwood Soho covers. It's like it's bounced around between artists, but now it's found Sean Longmore, who also did the Annihilators cover. So there's a trend here with our favourite covers of the year. And certainly he's sort of like the main guy for Torchwood covers at this point. He does all the monthly range ones. He did Nightmares from Torchwood 1 earlier this year. So it's good to see this one's landed up in his lap and he's more than knocked out of the park here.
I mean, I'm very tempted to pick it up, actually.
No, I mean, you've got the first Torchwood, haven't you?
Yeah,
Soho.
I've got it. I've got it,
Parasite.
but I don't think you weren't too keen on the second one, were you? It was Ashenden.
It's certainly weaker than the first, but I'd say it's still a good listen. I mean, I'm re-listening to Parasite at the moment, and still very much enjoying that. And it's nice going back to it and noticing hints of things earlier on that I now know from later episodes that just, obviously go over your head on the first listen because you don't know that they're coming. So.
Yeah, good for repeat listening then.
Yeah, but hopefully this set lives up to its amazing cover. I mean, James Goss again writing for it, so should be keeping up the same quality.
I mean, James Goss always delivers, so yeah, very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, he's been writing a bit less recently as well, so
I guess because he's busy.
Means he's taking more time with
busy in Turkey, getting arrested. I don't know.
Yeah, that might. They might not have let him have a laptop to type things up in his cell.
Yeah, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, it's all good. We love James Goss, so it's all good. But I guess that's all the news, isn't it?
No, 11th Doctor trailer.
Oh yes.
You've been quite excited for this, haven't you?
I have, because I want to get invested in a series. I feel like this year we've been lacking like that ongoing story, like Dark Universe. That was sort of the big thing for us last year. And to know that there's going to be like another series, a series like here's your 13 episodes, isn't it? Was it 12? I can't remember.
I mean, I suppose we're kind of getting that with 6th Doctor at the moment. And also 5th Doctor 40, but that's been so spread out.
It's not that exciting.
So yeah, we'll see how exciting this one ends up being. But what did you think of the trailer?
I thought it was really good. I really enjoyed it.
I had a good amount of fun.
I've listened to it about 3 or 4 times. And I was like, this is good, especially like the last bit when he's talking about you need to step out of my way. I was like, that's peak Matt Smith. I was like, that's a nice sort of darker edge to his Doctor.
It's the side people often forget he had, but it is there as a constant throughout his era.
Because you get sort of you can tell it's Jacob just doing like the opening bit. So I'm like, yeah, that's his sort of go-to Matt Smith. But then you get the more serious bit. I'm like, that could genuinely be Matt Smith.
Yeah, he channels it very well. I mean, new companion as well. I can't remember the character's name, but she sounds very good.
Is it Valerie?
Yeah, Valerie Lockwood, isn't it?
What is it?
Yeah, I think the chemistry between them is sounding really good as well.
And it's only going to flourish, really. I mean, I will say it did sound like it has like I feel like the Chronicles have their own sort of flavor to them. And like the time spiders feel very, here's your Chronicle monster. But it feels like they're going for like that
a bit more eventually.
Yeah, Paradigm Dalek, Cybermen, sign us up. But I like the way that it feels like it's going for that typical new series format. Here's a futuristic, and then you get like a historical mention, don't you? Like a pirate or something like that in the trailer.
I think they're in Venice, aren't they?
Oh yeah, Venice, 18th century, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
So again, it's the past.
So it's nice
into the future again with the last story.
I mean, that'd be quite nice because obviously the future's not going to wow them because they live in it. That's their present day. Whereas, going to the past will be
I suppose it depends whether it's their future or their past as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think she's certainly leaving a strong impression in the trailer. So I'm curious to see where this one goes.
I mean, dive in and go for it, or are you going to wait and see what people say about it?
I'm still not 100% sure at the moment. I think I'm trying to budget it out as well because we got like the prices going up in November. So I'm trying to see what can I get in September and October before then, so that I can get those things, go over 50 quid, get the 10% off before prices then go up in November. But we shall see. I mean, Torchwood Soho's a definite yes, along with 10th Doctor, Classic Companions, of course. 40 I've already got from the bundle, and what's New Adventures of Bernice Summerfield. That's a definite go-to because I listened to the excerpt of that they put out with the newsletter, sorry, or news email.
Oh, you got it. You got it
they call it.
Yeah.
They call it a newsletter. So, but that was a wonderful little first 18 minutes of the story.
I guess while we're talking about Bernice, I think this would be a good little segue into our main topic.
Yeah, because in a way she's kind of the first of the Worlds of Doctor Who stuff, but in another way she's sort of her own thing as well. And I mean, we do have a stream planned on her coming up probably sometime next month. So we're sort of, this is more just like a footnote, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just to clarify, we know Benny exists, but we're not really going to talk about her too much here. But don't worry, we are going to talk about her later.
I've not really delved into like the individual stuff that she's got. I've mainly focused on like the new adventures with David Warner, but like we said, we're going to do a separate thing about Benny, really.
Yeah, because she's the first leading lady of Big Finish, isn't she? And also, well, the first character Big Finish ever really got their hands on. Because
she's the reason why we are sat here now talking about Doctor Who Big Finish.
Yeah, they tried for the Doctor Who license, got turned down, got the Benny license instead because she was created within the Virgin New Adventures as a companion. But then when Virgin New Adventures lost the rights to Doctor Who, they still carried on the New Adventures with Benny, didn't they? It's the main character for a while.
Yeah.
And so from there, she sort of got her own license that Big Finish have acquired. And so even on like the ranges tab, she's got her own separate range entirely. She's not part of the Worlds of Doctor Who tab. But yeah, if a release does feature any Doctor Who characters, they have to put From the Worlds of Doctor Who on there. But it seems if they don't, if it's all like original Benny or audio stuff, then that just can be its own thing, which is why you have that funny thing with the Story So Far sets, where the first one doesn't have anything on there, but the second one, because it's got the Valiard and the Warner Doctor, that has From the Worlds of Doctor Who on it, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah.
It's like a little grey area there. But I suppose the first proper beginning at Big Finish of the Worlds of Doctor Who would be Gallifrey.
Would it be Is it Gallifrey? I guess, yeah.
Because
I was thinking, because you had like Dalek Empire.
Oh, yeah, that's true, actually.
And I think...
And Idavros,
yeah, Idavros is I think Idavros was like 2006.
Oh, no, that wouldn't be. Where's Dalek? Let's see, Dalek Empire, when did you...
I think Dalek Empire was like the first... Yeah, I think Dalek Universe has got... Not Universe, Dalek Empire. Was like the first attempt of them doing here's a Doctor Who spin-off. And that's very good. That's very good. Yeah. Dalek Empire is definitely worth your time because of the character of Susan Mendez and Collendorf. It's...
you got David Tennant in there, haven't you?
Yeah, in the third series. The second series is a bit more wacky because it explores more like the TV 21 sort of stuff with the Daleks. I think they're all on Spotify, so there's no excuse not to check it out. It's a really good little spin-off. But I will say about the early Big Finish spin-offs is they have a runtime of 75 minutes.
They're making the most
And
of that disk space, weren't they?
they're making the most of disk space, but you'll notice in some stories they just don't quite know how to structure it, and you're left with a bit of padding. You know,
That's what it's like. They were freed of the 4-part format that they were sticking to with the main range, but then once they were unshackled from that, they didn't quite know how to use it just yet.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
'Cause
still
it's
very good one.
Because Doctor Who in an hour-long format hadn't even been heard of at this point because that didn't come along until the new series, really.
Yeah, it's true.
Dalek Universe, I suppose, is the proper starting point. I suppose Gallifrey is like the longest running, though, isn't it? Because that's still around to this day through its different iterations.
What about a unit? Yeah, I guess unit then.
Yeah. I
got,
suppose
like,
Gallifrey is like
Sarah...
the beginning of Worlds of Doctor Who as we know it. Yeah, I think when was Sarah Jane? Sarah Jane was 2002.
Okay,
And then Gallifrey was 2003, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And then Cyberman was 2005. I want to say.
Oh no, Gallifrey was 2004. Well, we're way off there.
Okay.
Yeah, Gallifrey's definitely not the start of it.
There we go. We've done our research.
Still the longest running. Hello, Tom Mason. Thank you for joining us. My college radio is reviewing Big Finish. At the moment, I am listening to Cicero.
That's very exciting.
How is that so far, Tom?
Let us know.
I mean, our only experience of Cicero would be Tartarus from the... Or did you pick up Cicero in the end? I think
no, never.
Point, weren't you?
I was tempted by it because I want to have that big brain energy going, look, I listen to other audio drama. It's not just Doctor Who.
But then you realised you couldn't justify the cost.
Yeah, that's it. I'm like, I know my limit.
Yeah. You don't want another rabbit hole to go down.
There's a lot of rabbit holes recently with Big Finish. I'm like, nope, that's me done. But yeah, Sarah Jane Smith. That's a decent spin-off.
Yeah. And I suppose Sarah Jane Smith and Gallifrey are sort of spin-offs more created by necessity rather than design in a way, because Tom Baker wasn't working for Big Finish at this time. So they had these actors that were working for them or willing to work for them, but they didn't really have anything to put them in just yet. And so these spin-offs were sort of created to facilitate that, really, because Big Finish had a very big no recasting policy back in the day. Like, they thrived on that, didn't they?
Yeah.
Whereas now it's gone in a very different direction, and rightly so. I think recasting has worked out for the better for Big Finish and really opened up these different eras. But yeah, back then, recasting, big no-no. And so, you know, they had integrity, is what the recasting haters like to say, isn't it?
A load of a swear word there.
Yeah. Cow dung.
Yeah, load of that. It's like, how?
Load of cobblers.
You're keeping eras of Doctor Who alive. You're keeping the characters you love alive. You're getting new stories of characters you love. What? I don't get it.
Yeah. But anyway, enough of the tangent.
Yes, we've got a lot to cover.
Yeah. They were there to get these actors, these companions who didn't have a doctor to be paired with, because they also had something against putting them with different doctors, didn't they?
Yeah. Where they'd sort of, you get the locum doctors years later, so everything Gary Russell sort of didn't want, Nick was like, let's do it.
Yeah, because the fans want it.
Yeah,
and we laugh
for the
up,
fans.
we love it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we get a bit too much of it now, don't we? But
yeah,
it's just the nature of Big Finish growing, really, because there's so much more output now. Like, we get 4 box sets a month. Also, it is. Yeah, it hurts us in the wallet, but
I really enjoy it. I
mean, you've listened to early Gallifrey, haven't you? Have you listened to
I've
any Sarah
listened.
Jane?
I've listened to Sarah Jane, a couple episodes of that. That's very interesting because you have an idea of what a Sarah Jane spin-off is from Sarah Jane Adventures.
Yeah, you very much see her as a children's character, don't you? But from what I've
Yeah.
heard, this isn't quite so much that.
It's very different tonally. You've got Sadie Miller being a companion to Sarah Jane. You've got this other, I want to say I don't think it's Jeremy. I'm getting mixed up with like the person from Paradise of Death and Ghost of End Space, but she gets another male companion, and there's like a nice little story arc going along that. And I think I
One
haven't got
that's
to
not
series
finished to
2.
this day, is it?
No, series 2 has a big cliffhanger, and I think Liz prefers series 2 over series 1 because there was just one writer, David Bishop, covering series 2. So I guess it was more of a cohesive story. And I know there's a lot of talk about Sadie Miller should finish that series, but yeah, it's that sort of nice what if, and I think it's not a series I want to finish just yet because I'm like, I don't want to run out of more new Elizabeth Sladen. Because once I've listened to that, that's Liz done now.
Yeah, I get what you mean. It's like the same with Classic Who for me. I don't know if it's the same for you or if you've experienced it all, but there's like those odd stories that I haven't heard from different doctors or at least watched. Sorry, I mean heard in some cases with first and second, but yeah, I don't quite want to get round to them too quickly because I don't want Classic Who to be entirely done. But I'm not ready to put the pin in it yet, even though I can go back and rewatch and do rewatch many of the ones I've already seen. It's like, you know, you want to put off you want to put off those new experiences as long as possible, so there can still be that little bit of excitement, a little bit of unknown left to Classic Who.
I do sort of miss that sort of feeling.
Yeah, like when you're first diving into it and getting
Yeah.
all the DVDs and you don't quite know how the seasons are structured yet and stuff. You don't quite know how many different stories all these doctors have.
I think as well because when we were getting into Classic Who, this is going to sound really bad, but the internet was still in its infancy, so you didn't really know about fan consent if this was a bad story or a really good story. It was just I'm going to watch it and hopefully I like it, you know.
You also didn't have hundreds of clips uploaded to the official Doctor Who YouTube channel, which you mustn't forget to subscribe to.
Well, you'd have some of them actually uploaded on YouTube. Like I watched Day of the Daleks.
I watched Death to the Daleks on YouTube way back in the day.
Attack of the Cybermen, I watched that like a couple of weeks before the DVD came out. I did buy the DVD and I bought the Blu-ray, so I've definitely covered that ground.
Yeah.
I've definitely made up for it.
Yeah. It's always a bit grayer then, isn't it? Internet piracy when it's stuff that's that old.
Copyright's just become a whole different beast now, really. I think especially online,
especially with the way YouTube itself has grown. Like, you know, that's brought under more scrutiny, hasn't it, and more laws. Like you had the whole adpocalypse, however many years back that was now, where companies were pulling their ads from YouTube because they didn't want it to be associated with some unsafe content. But anyway, back to the worlds of Doctor Who.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we were on Sarah Jane, weren't we? I mean, I've not heard any of it, but it feels like it would be odd to come back over 15, nearly 20 years on to finish that off now. It feels like if a cliffhanger's been left that long, you feel like nothing can ever live up to what fans has imagined. So it's maybe
a bit like Well Mannered War, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like, I mean, we know she obviously gets out of whatever she's in because she ends up in school union. So, you know, that'll do.
Spoilers, the start of Classic Companions for the 10th Doctor is just the 10th Doctor rescuing her going, why don't you check out this school? I'll see you there.
Maybe that'll be it.
That's it. I've sorted it out. It's great.
Yeah. All right, you spoiled it now.
Oh, damn.
You just had to hold it in for a couple more days.
It's fine.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it feels like with something like that, it's it's similar to Lost Stories, isn't it? In some, or not quite, not Lost Stories, but Lost episodes, the missing episodes, where it's like the myth of them that's built up is almost better than getting them back and watching them.
Yeah, it's like the animations. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
is that really what it's like?
Yeah. Oh, speaking of animations, we've got to talk about the Abominable Snowman trailer.
It was all
Did you
right.
watch it?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I had a dispatch from HMV, which I'm assuming is Abominable Snowman, but it says 1st of January 2024. I'm like, what have I ordered? Is that Abominable or is that season 1? I don't know. It's got to be Abominable.
Why is it been dispatched if it's taken that long? Apparently,
it doesn't say what it is. So I'll have a mystery package going. What's this? I don't know.
I mean,
No
imagine
idea.
it must be that, but
It's got to be.
yeah. But I mean, it looks better than Fury, but overall, I'm not sold on it.
I mean, not nesting. Yeti spheres look a bit. Oof.
Oh, they look very rough.
Yeah, it kind of stand out.
Yeah.
But
it's like it's this weird obsession with having these hyper detailed everything else, and then the characters are really simple, so everything just doesn't mesh together well.
I guess that's next week's chat.
Yeah, that's true. That is
that's next week's.
Later.
Yeah, we'll cover that later when we wrap all this up.
So yeah, back to the worlds of Doctor Who. Gallifrey. What do you make of Gallifrey? Because you've listened to some of the early ones, haven't you? But not too much.
I've listened to half of the first series.
Yeah.
Gallifrey. A lot of people have been asking us to cover Gallifrey because I feel like that's the last big area of Big Finish we haven't touched in tier list form.
Yeah, because there's certainly a lot there you can squeeze into a tier list, but
it's made for tier list, but it's just we haven't dived into that much of it. You've got it from Intervention Earth, is it?
Enemy Lines.
Enemy Lines.
Started with, and then went into Time War from there. Haven't picked up the most recent one yet, though. War Room. I don't know. And yeah, I'm sort of like at the point where I finished Time War 4. Should I jump off of this now and save myself some money, or do I carry on and dive into War Room? Because I've heard some mixed things about it. Some people really do like it, but I don't know. I listened to the first 15 minutes and I'm like, it doesn't really feel like there's much different here. It feels like more of the same. So we'll see about that one.
So I think Gallifrey, supposedly, from our good friend Custurbs Fibster, first 3 series of Gallifrey are just best Big Finish. That's all you really need a Gallifrey. Everything else is kind of unnecessary, I think, from what he said.
Yeah.
But
then I saw Big Finish in general in a way.
Yeah.
Like it's all almost unnecessary by the necessity of the license that the TV show can't be reliant on outside media.
Because I think series 4 is when you have like an alternative timeline because you get Colin Baker in it. I think Caroline Ford's in that one. I think
that's sort of like the first reboot of it, isn't it?
That's when it goes into the box set.
Yeah, because series 1 to 3 were all individual CDs, and that was like its own era of Gallifrey. And then they brought it to a close, but then they thought, actually, this is quite popular. We can make more money off this. Let's do more box sets. And also, we've got these actors that we like working with. We want to keep them employed, keep them coming in.
Yeah, because it's interesting because I think the first 3 series of Gallifrey mentions a war. And obviously, they didn't know what a time war... They couldn't do their time war on Big Finish, so I think that's what they were hinting at going, by the way. Do that.
Yeah. Was that a car going off outside?
I think it is.
Oh dear.
I'm wondering, is it mine? I don't know. I might go and have a little look.
Have a peek out the window.
Just a little peek, because I don't know if it's mine or what, but I'll have a little check.
Yeah. I'll just have a check at the chat, see if anyone's popped along. Not quite. But yeah, Gallifrey Time War, I suppose I could talk about, because Ben picked up the first one of these. You're all in the clear there.
Yeah, we're all clear. We're all clear.
Yeah, I say you
It's not
picked
mine.
up the
It's not
first.
mine. Yeah.
You picked up the first Gallifrey Time War one, didn't you? And weren't a
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah, I just think that it just didn't feel like how the Time War you imagine on Gallifrey, and I guess that's the problem with the Time War being done. It's never going to be quite as how you imagine it, and I think
Yeah.
my big problem was why are you resurrecting troops when it's literally day one of the war? Like, it doesn't make sense really because it doesn't show the desperation of. Yeah, I just don't like it, to be honest.
It just, I don't know, the whole handling of the Time War at Big Finish feels like they already have fluffed it because they sort of got in there, did some big things, and now they're forced to work around a lot of that already.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the War Master, you've got him in the first Gallifrey Time War series, like explicitly tying to his first box set, which is also, the end for that incarnation, like leads into Utopia, doesn't it? It's the end of the Time War for him. But now you've got loads of other box sets with the War Master squeezed into that gap in a way. And obviously it's a Time War, so it doesn't all necessarily have to squeeze in there, but it still feels like there's an awkward chronology there in terms of which different doctors can meet the War Master and such. There's also the awkwardness of the Doctor, Eighth Doctor, and War Doctor, to be fair, go to Gallifrey quite a lot in their own series, but never really cross over with any of the characters in the Gallifrey series. And the Gallifrey series treats the Doctor as if he's always off avoiding the war and such, when he never really seems to be in his own series. Time War as a whole at Big Finish just feels rather messy for me. I don't know if you feel similar.
Yeah, because you have this sort of thing of like this is going to be like a big tapestry. All the ranges got to intertwine, and now that's the only case where it's sort of intertwined, really, isn't it? The Gallifrey Time War 1 and War Master.
Yeah, that's the only real crossover. Because otherwise, we don't like where different Eighth Doctor stories are placed in terms of bliss, whether they're post-bliss or pre-bliss.
Oh, tell a lie. You had the short trip, was it all hands on deck?
Oh, yeah, that led
and
into
Susan's War.
Yeah. But that was
That's
almost like
another
a
little
backdoor
spin-off.
pilot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a nice little one box set, I think.
Yeah. I mean, there's room left open for more of it, but they haven't quite come back to that yet.
I don't think I'd want any more. I feel like that's a nice little one-off box set. Great.
But at the same time, it's got a 1 on the spine, hasn't it? And I think it has been left fairly open at the end. I mean, given the way Time War 4 left off, I'd prefer if they weaved Susan into just the Eighth Doctor ongoing stuff whenever they get back to that.
Yeah, that'd be because Susan's quite a regular character for McGann's Doctor with the Lucy Miller stuff, really, the EDAs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, that's better. But yeah, Susan's War, that's another World to Doctor Who box set, which we'll get round to.
I guess we can cover it now, actually, since we're talking about Time War.
Should we cover all the Time War stuff now? Because we
let's
start
do
off with Gallifrey and then go from there. I mean, all the worlds are Doctor Who Time War at least.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you weren't a fan of the first box set. I did go through and get the other 3. I didn't mind the first one, to be fair. I think the second one does something interesting where it's more one long story with Rassilon, and it's like the games within Gallifrey and such, political machinations, until finally it's sort of like Ramala and Narvin realizing this isn't the Gallifrey they recognize anymore. And so that sort of spins off to Volume 3, where it's much more out among the universe and then finding Leela again, which is also where things get a bit weird, because it felt like with Time War 1, how they wrote out Leela, they were, that was tying it up with where she arrives in the War Doctor with John Hurt. It didn't quite line up with it, but at the same time, it felt like, we can fill in the gap there, and that all works out. But now Leela's off doing her own thing on Gallifrey again, and so yeah, that's another sort of messy Time War thing, really, isn't it? Where, especially with Gallifrey, it feels like they can't leave the characters alone for too long. They can't kill anyone off. Everyone has
They
to.
can't say goodbye. That's the thing. They
Yeah.
can't say goodbye to characters.
Yeah. And it also feels very awkward. I'm getting rid of pretty much everyone in Time War 1. Like, surely there was more. Yeah, like surely there was more Time War stuff you could have done with them across 4 box sets rather than burning all your bridges early on. Because again, that's them pretty much out the Time War because they've only just started it, and now
I guess it was them just going, nobody's safe, but you're like, okay.
Nobody's safe, but they've all survived.
Yeah. There we go.
But yeah, I mean, Time War 3 was quite nice of how Leela came back. That had some good stories in. I think a particular favourite of mine was the one by Lou Morgan, Nevernor, which is like this almost more rustic setting that Romana and Narvin are thrown into, where they solve a mystery with these creatures that have an interesting relationship with time. And so that's quite a warm, fuzzy story. But yeah, on the whole, I think Gallifrey Time War Saga, it's fine. I don't know whether it's worth spending the goodness knows how much you've got to spend to get it now.
Well, even more in November.
Yeah. I mean, I quite like the structure of Time War 4, though, because you got the first story focusing on Leela, second story focusing on Narvin, third story focusing on Romana, and then all those different threads come together for the final story.
Okay.
I think it's quite a nice structure for the box set format there. So, yeah, I rate that. And then, as we said, War Room Allegiance, we've not got round to yet and don't know if we will.
Probably will at some point, just not anytime soon. Well, I think because I've got Gallifrey all up until Gallifrey Time War 1, so I'm like, well, you kind of should complete it.
Yeah.
But
and you could do the tier list.
Then we could do the tier list. Yeah, there we go. That's it. We should.
That's the motivation.
That's the motivation. Do a tier list. But yeah, not this time. I wouldn't say it's going to happen this year.
No. But I suppose the side of the Time War we like a lot more would be the War Master, isn't it? This is where it's really at when it comes to Time War content. Perhaps because you've got a character who can really thrive in that environment.
It's evil versus evil, isn't it?
Yeah. He has no scruples, and therefore you can explore more interesting sides of that. I mean, you got Derek Jacobi as well, of course, in the lead role, and he is brilliant, isn't he? He was born to play the Master, and you could tell he's just having so much fun with the role.
It's one of those spin-offs where I was really happy having the one box set, and I'm so glad that I was proven wrong, because I was like, that's it, that's the War Master, it's great, we've got it. But I'm so happy we have way more, because I'd probably say it's my second favourite spin-off Big Finish do. It's the most consistent range. There's not really a dud release.
No. I mean, certainly. There's some that stand out less than others, but I think they've all got strong redeeming qualities to them. And it's hard to pick a favourite as well, because there's so many strong ones in there.
I still think only the Good's still my favourite. That or Anti-Genesis. Those two.
I do quite like Hearts of Darkness as well. That's a really good one.
I enjoy Killing Time because of like The Orphan and the Joe one. Quite a night in.
It's nice how to use the box set formats within these, because it's almost always one long story. Sometimes it is that more literally, like in the case of the Master of Callus, that is very much just one long 4-parter in a way, or 3-parter with a little interlude of sorts. Whereas you've got some other sets, such as Killing Time, like you mentioned, where it's got an overarching story to it, but each episode has its own beginning, middle, and end as well. And so, yeah, it's nice how it plays about with the box set format, really, but always does stick with having one long story. Like, there's not really been an anthology set yet. The closest would be self-defense, and I think it's to its detriment.
Yeah, because that's a surprising one, because I didn't think it would sort of interlink.
Yeah.
Until it got to like the final moments of that first story, it's like, oh, so that's why it's called self-defense. Okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, it almost feels like it might have been better had it not interlinked. Because I feel like a lot of the overarching elements within this box set drag individual stories down. Particularly the last one. It's because of how weak the arc is within it. It's like very loosely there in some stories, and it's just like an excuse to tell a story. But Escape from Reality looks to be doing that a lot better.
Yeah, I mean, great cover. I like the sound of the box set. You know, War Master
Sean
can do
more again doing the cover.
Yeah, War Master can do no wrong. It's just to highlight one of the best theme tunes to come out of Big Finish and Doctor Who in general.
I loved it when they added the middle eight.
Oh, it's not worthy. It's great.
Like that was just such a banger. Like reaching the end of Hearts of Darkness, having the build up in those final moments as Derek Jacobi's laughing his head off, and then you're hit with it, and then suddenly there's a middle eight as well. And it's like I had to reload that.
Like, rewind. I want to hear that again. That's some good shit.
Give me injected to my veins.
Exactly. Oh, so good, so good. What a good theme that is.
And as mentioned earlier, Susan's War, another Time War spin-off here. And this is at the moment only one box set. Perhaps that'll change at some point. I don't know. But yeah, I mean, what do you make of Susan's War?
I think it's decent. It was one of the most sold box sets of 2020, and I think it was one of those box sets where I think benefited being released in lockdown. I think
it was right at the start of lockdown as well. It was April.
It was. So. It was. I think it was the first release of the lockdown, so it was quite nice that everyone on like the community was listening to it. And I think the highlight of the box has got to be returning to the Sense Fear and Ian Chesterton.
Yeah, I mean
that was a really lovely story.
Last performance in the role at the moment.
Probably going to be his last one for a while. Well, yeah, probably going to be his last one for sure.
Yeah, and I think he's meant to have retired now, hasn't he, from acting in general? I think there's some wonderful scenes there between Carol and William as Susan and Ian reunite.
And then we go to what's the planet from Death to Daleks? Is it
no, it's
Florana.
Florana. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, we go back there, and it's all like this. I mean, the whole idea of this box set was going into more spy espionage. I think I can't remember who it was. It might have been Eddie Robson, but he had like that image of Susan in the trench coat from the Five Doctors. And sort of from there spun off into the idea of what if she's this spy during the Time War? What if we go into these more sneaky affairs between the Daleks and the Time Lords? And so that very much comes into play in the second story, The Uncertain Shore, where it's like this planet that's soon to be invaded, but there's already spies from both sides there, and they're trying to find out who's who could be trusted.
Nice bit of Ogron action, I remember.
Yeah.
That was good.
I mean, they had a funny name, didn't they? The Ogrons that were robotized. Rogrons, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, rings a bell.
And then Assets of War. I can't say I remember too much about that. I think that was the disappointment of the set.
Is it? It has like one of the monsters they tried to shoehorn in other Time War releases.
Yeah, the Orovix. They
Yeah,
were in the story from Time War 3 that I praised, both by Lou Morgan.
Dreadshade. Is it
Were they in
Dreadshade?
Dreadshade as well?
Say they are.
I think that's something else in Dread. Isn't Dreadshade literally the Dreadshade?
Oh, maybe. Yeah, maybe I'm getting mixed up. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I praised it earlier. I can't remember what it's called, but yeah, it's the one where Romana and Narva are on the rustic worlds. The Orovix are the creatures there as well. They're not quite as interesting in Assets of War, to be honest. But yeah, and then finally, Shortest Intervention, we get a Remembrance of the Daleks sequel / prequel with Susan thrown in. It's a good bit of
That's
fun.
quite a nice one. Nice little cameo as well.
Yeah, that's true. It's a nice way of looking back, isn't it, and seeing how far Susan's come as a character. And it hits you in the feels a few times.
Yeah. Is that Matt Fitton? Yeah, it's Matt Fitton, isn't it, that one?
Yeah. No, Alan Barnes, that one.
Oh, Alan Barnes, that's good.
But Susan's War, certainly worth a look if you are interested.
Is that all the Time War ones?
I believe so, because I think the rest is like War Doctor and or Companion Chronicles, funnily enough, with the first Doctor.
Yeah.
I suppose, shall we spin off now into we've had a classic series companion getting her own spin-off. Shall we talk about the new series companions who have had their own spin-offs?
Yeah, that's really a nice little way to sort of segue.
Yeah, and also sort of like one-off companions as well with Lady Christina.
Well, the only good thing we can say about Lady Christina, because we haven't listened to it, is that theme tune. Really good theme tune.
That really slaps.
Yeah.
Did you pick up Donna Noble Kidnapped?
I do have that one.
What do you think of it?
I enjoyed it. It's a bit sad Bernard Cribbins isn't in it, because he does get mentioned within it.
He's off on a Beano, isn't he?
Yeah, he's off, I think, Brighton Beach with like his Silver Fox gang or whatever that gang's called in End of Time. But it humanizes them even more, because you get a nice sort of scene between Donna and her mom Sylvia talking about her dad. But it feels very sort of 2000s sitcom as well. Like, has that sort of nice vibe to it. It's a lot of fun.
I suppose does a lot of that come from Nikki Wardley's character?
Yeah, who's Donna's companion, because this is set after Forest of the Dead.
So like after the trauma of that, it's her wanting a little bit of a break from traveling, isn't it?
The Doctor does turn up to save the day to help Catherine Tate. You get Dan Starkey voicing a load of aliens. You get this quite interesting story about sort of capitalism in the second one, about how we consume news and media. That's really cool. And then you get this nice sort of fantasy third story, and it all wraps up in the final story with the big arc, really, of Donna trying to. Yeah, there's a bit of an ongoing arc about them trying to pilot the TARDIS, and Donna pretending to be the Doctor is great.
Let's get some practice in before Stolen Earth Journey's End.
Yeah, when she becomes Dr. Donna. Yeah, but yeah, it's just a nice little light-hearted one box set and you're done. Yeah, again, that was sort of lockdown as well, so yeah, it was a good one to keep the spirits up. Really,
I think was that that was March. That was 1 month before.
Yeah, because it was funny because I met Catherine Tate December 2019. I was like talking about it to her. It's like, is that not out yet? It's like I recorded it ages ago. Yeah, so that's good.
Hello, stylish person. I can't stay, but it sounds like a great stream, so hopefully I'll rewatch it later. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy when you get back round to it. Also, Donna Noble Kidnapped is brilliant, says stylish person. So again, that's 2 endorsements on that box set.
I would say out of the Russell companions, excluding Dimension Canon, probably the second best one.
Did you ever finish the Martha Jones box set?
I finished the first story, but I never went back to it, to be honest.
No. Yeah, that didn't
It was all
really
right.
grab you, did it?
It was that's an interesting box set because it was one of those ones where everyone thought this is perfect Big Finish spin-off.
It feels
And
like it
yet
almost came too late.
it came too late, and I think it was released. It got mixed reviews and then it just disappeared. Like it didn't linger. Like you know how most big releases sort of stay in the fan psyche. That one just kind of came and went, really. You know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I feel like it's a shame with Martha that they chose to explore the most basic of time periods with her. Because you've already got this great story in Dissected from Torchwood, where you're taking her beyond where her character was on the TV series. Almost. I mean, it's set before the end of time, but at the same time, she's only in that for a short cameo, so there's not really enough to grasp her character on there. And obviously, there's a big change with Mickey,
Yes.
them ending up together. So it's nice that they sort of push that forwards. They push the character forward there. Whereas this is exploring something we've already had a book about and is already right there in the TV show with Last of the Time Lords. It just feels like, if you're doing a Martha spin-off, she's the one companion who you can really take in new dimensions following her time in the TARDIS. But yeah, they don't really grasp onto that. Maybe they couldn't. Maybe because we know sometimes the BBC will shoot down ideas. Maybe they weren't quite allowed to do this in case Russell has plans to bring her back at some point and carry on. But yeah, as it stands, I just feel like there's more potential for a Martha spin-off, moving her character forward rather than looking back and slotting in a gap. With Donna Donna at least at the moment, you don't have much choice. And I think there is an interesting gap there to be exploited and kidnapped because the TV show never quite explores the fallout of the library. With Rose, there's the fun of exploring all these different worlds and very much having a turn left expansion in a way, isn't there? And have you picked up any of the Rose Tyler stuff?
I've got the first dimension canon. That's fun just for Clive, to be honest. That's a highlight. It's very bleak. It's not a feel-good series at all.
Yeah. I think that's what excites me about it because turn left, I love that episode. That doesn't let up, so I don't think this story should either.
It continues the same turn left feel. So if you like turn left, you're gonna get a kick out of it.
Yeah. It's just money really is what's preventing me from getting that one because I am intrigued by it. It does look good, but
I'm sure it'll be on sale next month, so you might be able to get it for a knockdown price.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I suppose it might be finally at the point where it's a proper knockdown price rather than just back to pre-order price.
Yeah, I think it's been 5 years now, 4 or 5 years. Yeah, it's a nice one.
I suppose continuing on in this vein, we've also got Jenny.
Jenny's. I will defend Jenny because it was one of those people going like, "Why do we need this?" I'm like, you were probably back in 2008 going, "We need a Jenny spin-off." Yeah, I think that it's a lot of fun. It feels very. It has the same sort of feel as like the Sarah Jane Adventures. It has that nice sort of CBBC feel to it. It's just adventure, fun, and still running. And it's nice.
They called the second box set that, didn't they?
Yeah, I think what's nice about it is that you do have an ongoing arc with like the cult 5000 sort of hunting Jenny. So it's great, but it's not just here's some standalone stories. But yeah, I think my favorite Jenny story so far is the Ood one by John Dorney because it does something very different with Ood, and it's quite a grim story actually. Very different to what you expect for a Jenny spin-off.
Starge Person says War Master is as great as everyone says. Jenny is a mixed bag with some of my favourite spin-off audios and some of my least favourite spin-off audios. There we go. And also Gallifrey Time War Spectacular. So, there we go. Some praise and damnation there for Jenny from Stylish Person. To go to both ends of the spectrum there. Okay. How would you say about when Jenny misses then, if it has for you at all? Does it miss hard or?
Yeah, I'd say it does miss hard. Like, I think the third story in the first box set, it's something like Neon. Like, it's got such a. But I think the problem with the Jenny stuff is it kind of
Neon Rain.
Neon Rain. It sort of becomes a bit generic sci-fi. Yeah. But,
Tales from a New Earth. Did you ever pick that up?
I've got the free download from Doctor Who magazine. I've not touched it, and I thought about doing a review of it, but I'm like, I don't know if I can say anything nice about it. I don't know.
That's one of those examples of it feels like they're really scraping here to get a spin-off.
It's like, how can we get our money out of the new series license? I know. Let's do that.
I mean, speaking of Churchill years, that's something that sort of died away.
I never picked that up at all.
I picked up the first set. It's got some good stuff going on in it. Never went back round to the second set though.
Yeah. It's just a weird. Like, it was just sort of, do I need that box set? No, I'll skip it.
It's also sort of like, is it really worlds of Doctor Who? Because they're very much Doctor Who stories, but similar to Companion Chronicles, don't actually have the Doctor in. It does feel like it would have been interesting had these come along a bit later and we had Jacob Dudman voicing the 11th and 10th Doctors.
Yeah, I think they probably would have benefited being full cast.
Yeah, because it is pretty much full cast. Other than when the Doctor's around, then you get Ian McNeice doing varying degrees of impressions.
Because I know, like, the 9th Doctor one was like a little freebie, but even then I didn't pick it up.
I remember just thinking, why you're not sticking him with classic Doctors? Because you got those actors, and now they eventually did with the 8th and 3rd. But I mean, certainly there's some controversy there with Churchill anyway, because how he's treated in Doctor Who versus who he actually was as a historical figure are some quite different things, to say the least. So
big yikes.
I think it's probably it's probably better that character's left alone now. So I suppose it says the Ood Jenny story is one of my favourite audios in general. I could see why John Donnelly likes it so much. A great plot and great characters.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one.
Well, Stylish Pistol says, right, see you next stream. Take care and keep on being my favourite HooTuber pairing. Thank you, Stylish
Bless you.
Person.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Wonderful to hear.
Glad we're favourites of people.
Yeah, we're sorry we took last week off, but couldn't be helped. We're back now.
We're back, hopefully.
Hopefully you'll enjoy us on when you get round to giving us a listen from the start.
Whatever.
Stick us on in the background while you're doing something else.
Yeah, we always sort of
nattering away in your ear, chatting the
usual tripe. It's all good. It's all good. That's why we're here, just to chill and talk about Big Finish.
Yeah, I suppose now we can move on from the RTD stuff to the Moffat stuff. I mean, we're sort of shifting that way anyway with Churchill, but he's sort of his own thing, isn't he? At the same time,
yeah.
And I'm going to take the opportunity to talk a bit because you did not pick up the Lone Centurion, did you?
No, I didn't. No, I've been tempted by after what all you said, but never got around to it. Like you say, it's rabbit hole lists. No.
Yeah. I mean, I never got around to the second set. So like the cover art was one of the things that put me off that, and also just how much was coming out around that time. I had to make a sacrifice. So I haven't got Camelot. Maybe I'll go back to it at some point. But Volume 1, Rome, where you have 3 stories. They're all, I mean, the whole series is very much leaning more in the comedy direction. Sometimes that works, sometimes that doesn't. But Arthur Darvill is just so endearing as Rory. And I think as the leads in this, where he's getting himself in these situations that he really doesn't want to be in, he's surrounded by this world of where backstabbing and hiring assassins to kill people is just the norm, really. And he doesn't want to be involved in this. He just wants to help where he can, but he knows he can't do too much because he's got this burden of protecting the Pandorica. And this first box set is very much about him trying to get it back and winning favor with the people who have it, while different political machinations go on in the Roman Empire. It's a fun box set. I overall I really enjoyed a lot of it. It's got some great music as well. Like there's about an 18-minute music suite as a bonus download.
That's a rarity.
Yeah, it is a very enjoyable listen just sticking on the music suite alone. But yeah, I do quite enjoy that first box set, and it's a shame I couldn't quite get around to the second one. Maybe I will at some point. But yeah, that is Lone Centurion. Do you have any questions about the set?
I feel like you've probably answered them all when we've sort of talked about like what was the most surprising release of last year and all that. So
yeah, we did go through
I
it a
think
bit
we've
more
probably
then.
covered it. Yeah,
I'm sort of going off a loose memory at the moment because it has been over a year since I listened to that set, so I'm just going off what can I remember.
that's
Yeah,
the joy of this. It's it's all spontaneous.
certainly I remember having a good time with it. There's a good scene where I can't remember whether it's not really a scene, it's an ongoing gag in the final story where Rory has ended up being the emperor through different fumbles and such. He's worked his way to the top accidentally, and people keep giving him it's either ducks or chickens to sacrifice, but he doesn't have the heart to kill them. So instead, he's just sort of got a whole little sanctuary for them in the palace. But people keep coming along and giving him more. And I think he's named a couple of them as well. And there's some wonderful scenes where he's just talking to the Pandorica, talking to Amy, and he says about how she'd be much better at this than him. She'd love all the attention stuff, and he's not really built for it. So there's wonderful bits of character exploration there with Rory in this interesting time in his life. And I think what's most interesting about slotting into this gap with Rory is that it's an alternative history. You can have a lot more fun with this now because what happens doesn't necessarily matter. And I hope this range continues and we get more interesting settings going forward, because they've said they're sort of treating it like Blackadder, where each different series is set at different points. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Would you say it's sort of going off like the Romans type humor, like Doctor Who meets Carry On?
Yeah, there's certainly elements of that within that first box
Okay.
set.
Yeah. Okay.
But,
I mean, another Moffat spin-off, Paternoster Gang.
Yeah, I mean, you've picked up. Did you only pick up the fourth one of this?
Yeah,
for Jago.
Just for Jago.
Yeah, we'll talk about him a bit later, I suppose. I picked up all four of them. There is a nice little arc throughout there, which gets paid off in the end. But a lot of it's like hit or miss, really. Like there's some great stories. One of my favorites is Dining with Death, written by Dan Starkey, Strax himself. That's a fun little one, leaning more into comedy there, where you've got different alien species that are at war with each other invited round to Paternoster Row for peace talks, but things don't quite go as planned as you'd expect. So that's a fun one. Another one I quite enjoy would be from Heritage 1, which is A Photograph to Remember by Roy Gill, which features the Bloomsbury Bunch, a different group of human, Silurian, and Soltaran. A Soltaran played by Christopher Ryan, who is much more business-oriented, and I think he's a great character. I think all three of them work quite nicely as opposites to the Paternoster Gang, and so that was quite a great idea. I think overall heritage could have used them a bit more. I think they are they do pop up again throughout the set, sometimes not all three of them. But yeah, I feel like that's the only one that really makes the most of both trios together. So yeah, I think there's a lot of fun to be had with those characters. Heritage 3 might be the weakest of them. I feel like that it tries to get more into the characters with each story focusing on a different member of the Paternoster gang, but none of them really stood out to me that much. And yeah, but it all came together fairly nicely in Heritage 4. And you also have Daisy Ashford in there playing a villain, which was quite interesting because she's very much using the same voice as she's used for Liz, because she's like putting on that posh accent to blend it with Victorian times. But yeah, it's funny hearing it because I don't know, it might have been recorded before she did a Liz story. Perhaps not looking at recording dates, I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's funny hearing Liz, but not Liz.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I mean, what did you make of the Merry Christmas, Mr. Jago? The one you have listened to?
I feel like it's the most. You can correct me if I'm wrong. It feels very CBBC. Like I feel like Paternoster Gang feels very. This is kid friendly Big Finish.
I don't feel like it's that case in many of the stories.
I think maybe because like
but then again,
that
Sarah
one's
Jane itself.
special.
Yeah, Sarah Jane Adventures did lean into some darker territories as well. So yeah.
But yeah, I enjoyed the Jago one, and that's all I've experienced. Yeah, but yeah, I enjoyed it.
I suppose it's an interesting one because they're the group that people most wanted a spin-off for a while on TV, but I think a budget didn't quite extend to it. Because I mean, Big Finish didn't even get the license for them at first; they were like their own separate thing. So I'm assuming the idea of a spin-off was thrown about for a while, but just maybe they couldn't find a place for it because, like you say, these characters do lean themselves more towards CBBC, but because of the makeup requirements, because of the period setting, it doesn't quite lend itself to a CBBC budget. So it's sort of a case of it not really finding an audience, is why it went to Big Finish in the end.
I guess it was between Class and Paternoster. I think a Class, sadly, was the cheapest one to make, really.
Yeah. And we've not heard anything about that since. Oh, well, it had a couple of Doctor Who, Big Finish, box sets, but yeah, that came and went. 2016 was a weird time to be a Doctor Who fan.
I'm sure the Class audios are great. Nothing against people who enjoy them. They're just Class wasn't my cup of tea, so I'm not gonna go out there and enjoy it. Seek out more.
I mean, Stylish Person has said Class audios are even better than the show and are great. So there we go. There is a recommendation there. If you did like the show and you want more of it, there is that option.
Then you probably got them if you like Class.
Yeah, you might already have them. If you're listening to this, you're far enough down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So yeah, I suppose the next Moffat-related spin-off would be Missy. Have you picked up any of Missy?
No.
I have not either, so this is a quick segment.
This is a quick segment. I enjoyed Missy in the bits that I have experienced.
Yeah, because she's popped up in other places as well. Diary of a Song and Ravenous 4. I think those are the only places we've had. Oh, and of course Masterful.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Masterful? Because that is Worlds of Big Finish, Worlds of Doctor Who.
I guess we can talk a bit about the Master ones as well.
Yeah, we can. I mean, you picked up the first one, didn't you? Second one, not quite out yet.
Yeah, second one's not out yet. The whatever it's called, Express. I don't know what it's called.
Nemesis Express.
Nemesis Express. There we go.
Yeah. What did you make of the first Master box set?
I like what it went for, like the vibe of this sort of dystopian sort of London after the Dalek invasion of Earth. I like the use of the Daleks within it. That they have like a proper execution squad coming back to finish killing off the Master because he did a terrible job the first time around. I think that's when Eric Roberts really shines. The first story is quite Master-like because it's setting the other establishing character of the set, probably the main protagonist other than the Master in Vienna. But yeah, second story really you start to build upon the world of this sort of London. But I think it could have gone more American 90s feel. It feels kind of too British to be Eric Roberts in a way.
Yeah. It sort of seems like, from what I've seen, Blade Runner light.
Now, it's interesting looking. No, I'm sure we're going to talk about this in a minute. Bambera. How Bambera gets the 90s feel right from the get-go. You think that you'd want that sort of 90s cheese, what American TV has, sci-fi TV shows have like. What? I'm trying to think of one. I can't remember what they're called, but there's loads on like Quest TV
like
or
Stargate
whatever.
and stuff like that.
Stargate, and then there's like the time tunnels or something like that. There's some weird one when it had some weird ones were on there. I can't remember what they were called.
Yeah, I think my knowledge is more British based, but even then I'm a bit limited.
X-Files is a major one, yeah.
Yeah, that certainly has an influence on Unit.
Yeah, especially the third story.
Yeah. But yeah, certainly, I suppose because that's also going for more British stuff as well. With Unit, they know how to make that, whereas with Master, with the more American influences, it is still British people trying to emulate that. So maybe that's why it comes off a bit wrong.
Yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Yeah. I think you're not tempted by the second box set then.
I might pick it up because it's Chronicles, but
you're weak for Pertwee.
I'm weak for the Pertwee, but yeah, there's a lot happening in October.
It's a busy month. Yeah. But yeah, Masterful itself, the crossover of all the Masters, the multi-master story, to end all multi-master stories. James Goss as well. It was pretty good.
It's a lot of fun.
You're more there for the journey and hearing the characters interact than actually the plot and the resolution, because it is a bit of a weird resolution.
I mean, the resolution makes sense the more times you listen to it.
It still feels wrong, though, because it's very sudden. It needed an epilogue of some sort, perhaps.
But yeah, it's like most multi-Doctor stories. You're there for the characters rather than the story. Just going, how do these interact?
And hearing John Sim back on audio for one thing, and also back face alongside Derek Jacobi, having those two together is marvelous. He's very much channeling the World Enough and Time version of his character, isn't he?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I would say Masterful at times can be on the nose with like what it's taken the mick out of, but I'm here for it. I enjoy it. It's good.
I love the scale of it as you're bouncing between the different plots.
It's nice how it sort of intertwines, really. I like that.
Yeah, and I think it's nice how the breadcrumbs are dropped throughout. It's not quite obvious how it intertwines until you realise how it's all tied to this one world and such. Masterful, great celebration of the character of the Master. If you've not picked it up, it's definitely worth getting. If you go for the special edition version as well, you also get Terror of the Master, which is this wonderful Third Doctor audio novel, really, isn't it? Or half an audio novel.
It's a prototype.
Yeah, it's about 200 minutes long, I think. Read by John Coltrane, who's brilliant. And so if that ever goes on sale again, I think it was on sale fairly recently, but yeah, definitely, if you're going to go for this, if you're interested in some Third Doctor action, go for Masterful in the special edition form.
Yeah, and I'm sure...
it's all sold out now.
Oh, gosh.
So yeah, you got to go download if you want. Terror of the Master.
I mean, I think check out our top 5 releases of 2021 so far, and I'm sure we discuss it more in detail there if you want to know more about Masterful. There.
Yeah, it did pop up on there, didn't it?
Yeah.
So yeah, next up, I suppose we'll do like another crossover of sorts. The 8th of March. Did you? Because you did pick up the second one, didn't you?
I have both of these. I have both of
You
these.
did get both of them. Have you listened to much of the first?
No, I've not listened to the first because I saw the reviews. I saw it cheap online. I bought it. I haven't listened to it, so I can't really comment on it. I've heard good things about the River and Leela story. I think that's meant to be the standout one.
I mean, it's a Diary of a Song story, really, isn't it? But just spun off. It's even got the theme tunes. Like they've each got their own theme tunes here, whereas the second box set it's all just the same theme throughout.
Yeah, it's got that sort of generic sort of sci-fi. Yeah, quite orchestral feel. Yeah.
I think it's a shame, really, that these box sets didn't seem to land.
I don't think they really have landed, to be honest. I don't think, because like it's interesting because the first story in the second box set, the Romana one, follows on like seconds after Warrior's Gate, and like most people who are probably going to be buying this box set is for the Rani story with Jo Jones, because it's Sarah Jane Adventure sort of continued, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of these do feel like backdoor pilots for things that eventually get their own spin-offs anyway. Like with the Rani stuff.
But it just feels so weird because like Warrior's Gate, not exactly a fan favorite story, but hey, enjoy Romana rescuing like Farrells, you know.
Yeah, Big Finish had a weird obsession with Farrells recently. They popped up in a few places.
Yeah, it's just like okay, if that's a recent little trend, then okay.
So they discovered John Dorney could play one quite
Birrock.
well. So
yeah, you can be Birrock. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll get you in a few releases.
But yeah, nothing too amazing, really.
I think it's what's ultimately a shame about it, because it really is Big Finish trying to push their female talent to the forefront and, show them off, but they just don't seem to do that well in it. And certainly they've got a lot of great female talent and a lot of great stories in other ranges, written by women, directed by women, starring women and such. But for some reason, when it's all put together here, very little of it seems to resonate with the fans.
Yeah,
which is a shame. But yeah, speaking of one of Big Finish's leading ladies, River Song now, I suppose.
Take it away, Luke.
Yeah, I mean, you've got all 10 box sets as well, haven't you?
I have, but
still missing one.
I've got them all, but there's a reason why you're called the River Slut.
Is that still my
name? Take it away.
Got like a group chat with a group of us.
Yeah, I think it's still your nickname. I think it's still your nickname. I think it is.
Because this was at a time when we were like all edgelords back in 2015, however it was. And I was the one who took the plunge. I said, you know what, I'm going to pick up Diary of River Song and see what it's like. Because I think a lot of us weren't too big of fans of the character.
I liked River
at that time,
but I just didn't want to commit.
Yeah, I liked her in the 10th Doctor story, Science in the Library, Forest of the Dead, and then I sort of went off, and maybe from oversaturation. But on reflection, on like recent rewatches I've done of stories, I don't know where that came from really, because she is great throughout her era.
Edgelord phase.
It's just the Edgelord phase, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went for it. I dived in and picked up Series 1. And I was surprised. I was like, you know what? This is actually some pretty good stuff. Particularly River on her own in the different stories. Signs and I Went to a Marvelous Party are two great ones, River on her own. The first story, less so. And then finally getting her alongside the 8th Doctor that was nice. That feels right, those two together, doesn't it? The more it's the hopeless romantic meeting his wife. So what can be better than that combination? And then from there, River Soul always became like my comfort Big Finish in a way. Like it was always just, it was never getting too overly hyped and excited for it when it came around, but it was just nice to dive back into the character and just have a bit of fun in this world, really. And yeah, that continued throughout the different series for a while with different doctors. It always feels like it was trying. There's like the usual one experimental story per box set for a while. You got your one story where everything goes together with the Doctor, and yeah, it was always trying different things. This range, and it was nice when it finally got beyond having the Doctor there and really started to explore different facets of River herself, like Series 7 does, which is probably possibly my favorite series overall. Does a great job of exploring River's different detective personas as you get 4 different genres throughout the box set. And yeah, that's just a lot of fun. You go from Scandi noir to like American black and white noir with Weeping Angels thrown in there. So there's a lot of fun to be had in Series 7. I mean, Series 6 as well. It's quite an interesting one, throwing in River into different classic stories, which makes sense. You know, she's got the Doctor's Diary, so she can dive into these stories and have a bit of fun in the background. But yeah, recently I feel like the range has thrown a bit of a wobble with Series 8, 9, and 10. I don't know. How do you feel?
I've sort of, I think, I'm kind of agree that there's been a bit of a wobble, and I've sort of got to the point, especially with the amount of Big Finish that are coming out now, it's sort of going, well, do I need it? Do I really want to buy it? It's one I can afford to sacrifice. I think it's one of those ones where I can like, yeah, I can sacrifice that if it doesn't interest me.
Yeah, until they throw a Nana Doctor in there.
So they're throwing it because that was a thing with the River stuff. I avoided it like the plague, even though I liked River as a character. It wasn't until they got Davo in there when I was like, oh, I'll check it out.
Yeah,
I
because
think
we
that
were
was
big on Davo then, weren't we?
still are.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was like, damn, they've got me. I'm gonna check it out. But with that box set, it felt like they were doing something more to a character, exploring sort of the whole Demons Run thing. You know, because I think that was the frustrating thing with River is they wouldn't let her stand on her own 2 feet. They had to have that sort of safety blanket of going, here's a doctor, so you know you buy it. Because I think Big Finish's main demographic really are probably people, you know, late 30s, 40s onwards.
They're there
really.
for the classic Doctors.
Yeah, they're there for the classic Doctors, so it's one way of getting them to go buy this. Whereas I think possibly the demographic's still the same.
I think
I'd
it's
say probably
shifted a bit more now, though.
it's probably shifted a bit more, but I'd say it's still the main core group are the classic diehards, you know.
Because this is very much where they go to have their classic Who continued, really, isn't it?
Yeah, but they can't have it anymore because recasts. Yeah, so
We've taken over.
we're taking over. Look at me, I am captain now. But yeah, the River stuff. So yeah, Series 3 is probably my favorite one, and interestingly, probably my favorite story of River is probably Lady of the Lake, the Nev Fountain one.
Yeah.
I think that's a really, really good one. Then My Dinner with Andrew, that's a nice sort of Dougie Adams Hitchhiker's Guide. That's a lot of fun. Yeah,
For me,
really good.
always had a love of 529. Like Series 2 as a whole is very messy, but 529 is a brilliant story by John Dorney nestled in the middle there. It's the only one not to have a Doctor in it, funnily enough, but it shines so much brighter than the rest in that set. Another favourite would be, in more recent times, I quite like Slight Glimpses of Tomorrow from Series 8. It's like the opening story where you're very much chronicling the history of this world with River and her android friend, played by her real life daughter, Alex Kingston's real life
Salem.
daughter.
Is it
Yeah,
Salem?
where? Yeah, it's in Hartel. I'm just looking up the character's name because she was also in 529, funnily enough.
Hmm.
And then they finally returned to the character to explore where things went for her. Rachel, that's the character's name.
There we go.
Yeah. But yeah, that was interesting to explore further. And then Series 8 sort of went in a weird direction because I think the pandemic sort of threw off the recording of that one. And I don't know how much of it they've got round to reworking again because they said, like, we had plans for it, but we're going to have to fold them into a future box set. I don't think they've been worked into any future box sets yet, as far as I'm aware. Because Series 9 obviously went off in the direction of the Third Doctor, and then Series 10 ended up more being just stories with River, really. It was an anthology set. But yeah, after Slight Chemist Mari went into Brave New World, which explored Rachel further, and it's more of her episode than River's, really, with a fun cameo in there.
Yeah, that made probably the best bit of the story, that cameo.
Yeah, and then the rest of the set, it was just different robot stories with K9 and the Mechanoids in this.
I enjoyed the K9 one.
Yeah,
quite messed up.
Yeah, it's a very weird story, and that's I don't know quite how I feel about that one. And then Queen of the Mechanoids. I don't know, it's all like touted as this kind of tie-in to Dalek Universe, but it never quite did. I mean, it's referenced in Dalek Universe 3, but that's about it. Like, it does leave a thread open that Dalek Universe never picks up on. So
I think Series 8 for me is probably the first box it was like, do I need that one? But because it's got like the Dalek Universe thing, I was like, oh, okay, I'll get it.
Yeah. All right. It's nice having more Mark and Anya in hindsight.
Yeah.
I don't think I think it took me ages to get round to that one though. But it was probably, I think I listened to that after Dalek Universe 1. Yeah, New Recruit we got through a lot quicker because, we're Third Doctor fans. We had to get to the Tim Treloar feature at the end, didn't we?
Oh, yeah.
And what a wonderful combination River Song and Liz are.
I think there's got to be plans for more of those because there was such a positive reaction. I think people have emailed like the podcast going, please give us more of these two.
Yeah, I'd love more of those two together. And that was definitely the highlight of an otherwise quite mixed set. Yeah, I quite like the first story, The Bloodwoods.
I think the first story is probably my favourite.
Terror of the Suburbs, I know you're not too fond of, but I do quite like that one. It does drift away quite a bit from the season 7 style that you get. And I think that's the awkward thing about this series of River is that it's still very much a series of River. But when you're putting something into the Third Doctor's era, I feel like that's such an infectious era that almost everything else should bend around it, I suppose. And when it doesn't quite do that, it feels wrong. Yeah. I think that's certainly the case with Never Alone. That one I was not a fan of at all. And that one feels weirdly modern, which I think is to its detriment. And then finally, Rivers of Light. It felt like once it got going, it was over for me.
Yeah, with an interesting sort of surprise ending, how it sort of ties more into the Third Doctor era, where you're like, that kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that still. Yeah, and also similarly, with self-defense, it feels like it's got an arc for no reason. Like, I think, Like in terms of the overall art, there's like a reference to it in the Bloodwoods, and then Terror of the Suburbs and Never Alone are just fun stories with River and Liz to kill time before we finally get back to it in Rivers of Light. Like it feels like why River was there should have been more of an ongoing thing throughout, even if the stories aren't 100% focused on it. It feels like there should have been a B plot, something there going further with it, because as it is, that does sort of disappoint in the end. And now, finally, we get round to Two Rivers and a Firewall, which is completely anthology, so doesn't really have that problem. But you've not quite started this one yet, have you?
No, I've not got around to it. I've just sort of fallen behind on my listening.
Nah, that's fair enough. There's a lot going on at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I did get through it. Two Rivers by Tim Foley, who is also writing the entirety of the next box set, is a brilliant story. Very focused on River and so, how her character is shaped by the Doctor, by who he is. And it's quite a non-linear story. It's sort of going back on itself quite a bit throughout it. And it does that very well and uses that to explore a character in a very interesting way that you wouldn't normally expect. And it pulls on heartstrings in the end. And who's the actress? Mimi Kaisha? I've butchered that. I'm very sorry, but plays the Ulla River song. It's a shame she's credited as the Ulla River song, and Alex Kingston could have been credited as proper River song, given that we've got Ulla Dave and proper Dave. But yeah, that would have been a fun little thing on the credits. But yeah, she is brilliant as this alternative River song. I mean, I can't quite say too much about it because it spoils what's going on with her within the story. But that is perfect casting. The two of them play off each other so well. And she does feel very much like River Song. It feels right. It feels great casting. And it's a shame that we don't get more of her within this set, really. But yeah, for the story as it is, she makes a very solid impact. And you do believe that she could almost have a spin-off of her own and could carry that. Don't want to give Big Finish ideas there because, we've got enough to spend money on. But yeah, that was a nice, that's a very good story. A highlight of the set is the Two Rivers. Beauty on the Inside, on the other hand, is the low point of the set for me. I think I've seen quite a few people saying the same thing. It's by Lizzie Hopley, and funnily enough, this is her first venture into the Diary of River Song range. But it doesn't feel like it because she is no stranger to the character of River Song.
Yeah, with Ten and River.
Ten and River, Dalek Universe, she wrote The First Son, and also she wrote in Peladon the River and Alpha story. So it feels almost like she's the go-to River writer in some ways anyway. And yet this is her first time writing for the Diary of River Song series itself. Which is, it feels weird, but yeah, that's just a fun little fact there regarding the writer. But yeah, the story, I'm not sure. It feels a bit too long. It's the longest of the set. It's about 1 hour and 7 minutes. And I don't think it justifies that runtime. I think it's doing something interesting, but not interesting enough to last that long, really. Next up, Black Friday by Lauren Mooney and Stuart Pringle. This is a very fun story. We loved these writers back when they did The Grey Mare for Yanto in Torchwood. They've got another Torchwood coming out with Yanto next month, don't they?
Yeah.
A couple of months, 2 months away. It's the November one. I can't remember what it's called. But the Lincolnshire Poacher, that's it. So I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, this one doesn't quite live up to the height of The Grey Mare, but is nevertheless a lot of fun. It's them doing something very different, and they say in the interviews that they wanted to do something very different. They'd done the creepy story. Now they wanted to do a more fun story about shopping centres. And, you've got sort of like this, it's very much a two-hander between River and Mikhail, who is quite lovable character. He's sort of like he's in his man cave in a way, I suppose. He's living out the fantasy of being trapped in this shop planet, and so everything's his to take, but he's got a hideout in his little ventilation shaft. And so I think, it's very much about those two characters and the relationship between them. And it does hit the right notes when it comes to that, so that's the main thing. But yeah, overall, maybe it's another one that feels a bit too long again. It does feel almost season 24 in a sense, where like similar to Paradise Towers, you've got this world built around, this tower block. This is instead a whole world built around a shopping centre, really. And I suppose at the same time feels like it's playing off the idea of the library being a whole planet. Here instead, River is visiting shopping centre being a whole planet. But yeah, and obviously you've got Autons in there as well, which leads to some great scenes involving mannequins, as you would expect. Yeah, overall, my second favourite in the box set. Finally, Firewall, which deals with River after her death in Silence in the Library. There seems to be a lot of odd sounds coming through on the mic at the moment.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, I don't quite.
No idea.
Is there a Hoover in the background, perhaps?
That's pretty. I know what it is. It's all right.
Yeah, it feels like it's picking up a lot more at the moment. Like every little rustle you
Okay.
echoed down. I don't know.
I'll see if I can have a little play around.
Yeah. I was like wondering, is it me on my end? Am I getting feedback?
No, you're all right. You're all right. You're grand.
But sorry about that, viewers, if that was picked up by. Yeah, I think we should be good now.
You're all right.
Yeah, so Firewall, River Song after Silence in the Library and Forest of the Dead. We've sort of explored this a bit before with the name of the Doctor. But this is us properly exploring what it's like for her living life as a data ghost. And for me, it just feels like for such an interesting time in her life, for something that you can really do a different story with, it feels a bit too basic. It feels like there's more that could have been done with this one that wasn't, and instead you're just left with what feels like an almost unnecessary story, I suppose. It's fun. It's got some great characters. It's hard to talk about too much because it certainly has some surprises in there. But yeah, overall, I'd just say it's fine. It's fairly good, but for where it is in her timeline, it feels like more needs to be done to justify its existence, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, that's Two Rivers and a Firewall. Sort of like exploring tales from throughout her life. I think the one thing on that side is it could have been done more to show her growing as a character, like being more explicitly at different points in her life. Because obviously you got the time when she's a doctor, you got her being much more younger, still in training and such. So perhaps more could have been done there, rather than it all feels very much like the same River character throughout. So yeah, more other than the final story where we're going off into River's afterlife, as it were. And in some ways the first story, because that sort of leans back into her origins a bit. But yeah, on the whole, I feel like this box set could have done more for me, and I'm hopeful that the next box set, Friend of the Family, can deliver something better.
Any other Moffat spin-offs? I think that's like the last big one, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think we've more or less covered all the. Or I suppose Unit, the new series. That's
should we talk about Unit? Should we move on to that? Because there's a lot of
Yeah.
Unit. There's a lot
yeah,
of
we
Unit.
might as well.
Yeah, I think that's let's dive
That's
into
the
that.
best bet. Yeah. I mean, you've got them all, haven't you? Now.
I have,
Yeah,
but I can't
that's
say
it.
I've listened to a lot of them.
Mm.
I've just picked them up because I've been on sale for like dirt cheap. So I'm like, I'll pick it up. Yeah.
I like Extinction. That's a solid start. Did you get around to listen to that one?
No, I've not listened to that one yet.
Yeah.
I've not.
Yeah. I mean, Shutdown was pretty good by my estimations. Although I think that one didn't go down too well because after this, they very much heavily leaned on returning monsters in each set, whereas this was the only set not to feature one. So it's a shame that sort of seemed to lead to a trend there. Silence was pretty good. Unit Assembled was where, funnily enough, it all fell apart for me.
That was my first one, and I was like, "Is this really what you'd has to offer?" I didn't really like it, to be honest. Solarians howling like wolves? No, not for me.
Yeah, I mean, you
Not for
had
me.
Tidal Wave, but that was about it for the good.
Yeah, that's the only good thing in it, to be honest.
Yeah, I was not a fan of Unit Assembled, and I said, from what I've seen, that one hasn't gone down too well with many other people either. So, yeah,
Cyber Reality.
Yeah, I mean, Encounters between that I didn't bother to pick up because of Unit Assembled, but yeah. Anyway, Cyber Reality you have listened to. I didn't pick that one up, but you did.
That's a great one because it's a box set of two halves. You have the first one dealing with like this sort of VR.
Auctioneers?
The auctioneers they get finished off by the War Master quite easily. But I think what I like about this is it adds to the Cybermen by adding like VR and how using that technology in Cybermen it just feels quite genius, like 3D printing and autons. It has that sort of same feel to it, which I really do like. The Cybermen are a proper threat in Code Silver. Like they're full on, they're winning. They're winning, which is great. But yeah, it's a lot of good stuff. And then you get Jacoby involved in the set, and it's all good. Yeah, it's a good set. I think that the first half is probably the weakest because it's building up to the Cybermen. Because you're just like, I want to hear the Cybermen.
Don't they sound a bit off in this one? I've heard people complain.
Yeah, there's no real set of voices. It's like a mixture of Invasion meets 10th Planet meets 80s Cyber. It's a weird combination. Like they alternate, really. Yeah, it's not like the Nightmare and Silver voice is what you hear in Death in Heaven or.
I think it's the only time Nightmare and Silver Cybermen have been on a cover, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that was one of the main draws for me. I was like, I like Cybermen. I like that Cyberman design. Go on.
Yeah. And then from there, they with the last two box sets of the original run, I suppose we could call it, they sort of went for this format of a two-parter and then two one-parters, really, didn't they? So almost an anthology, but not quite. Yeah, I mean, I do quite like Revisitations. That was a good set. You get a nice little Host the Wirren by Chris Chapman, fun unit story there. I think it's one that it has that scale of a four-parter, but not quite as spread out. And so that works quite well. Breach of Trust, I've heard quite a bit of hate for this one by David K. Barnes, but I do quite like it as a story and how it is much more character-focused. It's sort of very much like everyone's woken up in the middle of the night by this threat that they've got to solve, and there's this quite strong moral dilemma within that does pit these characters who usually are working very well together in terms of Osgood and Kate and Josh, and really clashing their ideologies against each other, as Osgood's very much more pushing to do what is the right thing, but Kate also has wider implications there with the rest of the world to think about. So yeah, I like where that story pushes the characters. And finally, Open the Box is this brilliant Mind of Evil follow-up, really. So, yeah, I mean, did you ever get around to any of those ones?
No, I've not got around to it. No, because we had plans to do like a unit tier list, so hopefully we get around to that. So I actually dive into it. Some of these.
You definitely need to listen to and Open the Box because you're a big Mind of Evil fan. This feels like an appropriate follow-up to that story.
Yeah, because isn't it like a spa place? Is it like a leisure?
Yeah, it's like this retreat that different people from the British government and such are being sent on as like a mandatory almost training type thing. And meanwhile, the mind parasite is there doing its work. Yeah, and then unit incursions, I was less fond of that one, to be honest. But you had a weird static sequel in there, funnily enough. So yeah, but Unit Nemesis now, this is where we're currently at. We've both got the first two sets. You haven't listened to the second one yet, have you?
No, I haven't. No.
I haven't listened to the second one either, and I haven't even finished the first one yet. So I'm struggling to connect with this era of unit at the moment.
I like it because it redeemed V11 for me.
Oh yeah, he's definitely the star of Between Two Worlds so far.
Because after like the Sixth Doctor and Constant set with 11 in, I was like, I don't know. But then that box that came out, I was like, this is really good. But yeah, it's all right. It's okay.
I mean, you got Harry and Naomi in there, but we don't really know the context for them yet. So they just feel a bit of this weird little bonus thrown in that we're not quite sure what to make of yet.
Yeah, they're part of another Big Finish jigsaw, which we might not. I don't know.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes because we've still got another year to go until we get that in the Fourth Doctor Adventures.
Blimey.
But I'm considering cutting my losses with this one because we've got a much better unit spin-off now in the form of Brave New Worlds, focusing on Brigadier Bambera. And we both really liked this first box set, didn't we?
I think for every other unit set, what has gone before, they've learned their lessons and put all their mistakes and rectified them for Bambera. And I think Bambera's the perfect unit series.
Angela Bruce is brilliant as like the leading lady, isn't she? She's very much front and center in it. Especially, I love how the first story is very focused on her.
There's just a lot of energy. It's relentless, I think. It's the best way to describe Bambera.
We love the 90s feel.
Yeah, I think this just captures the 90s, like when the monsters get let loose in the first story and Bambera confronts it. That feels very 90s. And it utilizes the 90s setting very well, like Wembley Stadium and all that. Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, but not Wembley, the Millennium Dome. Yeah. Or well, the O2 Arena now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, Rogue State, the first story, was great in the first half, where it's very much focused on Bambera's character, where she's at in her life, how she's considering not taking this position as head of unit, how she's very much begrudging about it. She's got her own vendetta against this other character, Krojak, and so yeah. But then it just sort of becomes awkward audio action where I cannot tell what's meant to be going on for half the story. But I love that opening to it. Like the first half of Rogue State is brilliant, but yeah, the second half it lost me a bit. But luckily, the set improves with each story, I'd say. And time flies is the next story, and it's sort of a 90s version of Green Death, isn't it? It's taking that ecological approach.
It's interesting because each of the first 2 stories you're introduced to like the main military dude on the cover, then you're introduced to this sort of rogue, reckless scientific advisor. Is it Alice? It's not Alison, is it Alice? I'm trying to think.
No, it's
The
Louise Ricks.
Louise Ricks.
Yeah, and it's Jean-Paul Savarine is Bambera's second in command.
Oh, he's great. I love him. They have a
Yeah.
great chemistry, him and Bambera.
Yeah, you gotta love the dry wit. And I think that's what's great about this whole set is it's very much building up the chemistry between the main trio.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think they bounce off each other so well. It's something that you don't always get in the Unit News series, sadly. But I think it's also that good mix of, unit tech, unit feeling somewhat retro, whereas Unit News series almost goes a bit too futuristic with what they're capable of.
Yeah. It sort of goes off that sort of Torchwood thing, like if it falls out the sky, it's ours. That type of motto, like Yvonne has.
What do you mean? What, unit now or unit then?
Like the Kate Stewart stuff.
Yeah, I suppose so. They're retrofitting a lot of it, aren't they?
Yeah.
Whereas this feels a bit more down to earth.
Cobbled together, yeah.
Yeah. It's not quite Lethbridge Stewart's unit, but it's a nice to see the stepping stone from that. Really. But I quite like the middle story in this set. And it's nice exploring Rix's character in that and having the tension between her and Bambera at first, and how she's not a big fan of scientific advisors and scientists because they don't fall into the chain of command nice and neatly as she would like. But at the same time, they thought they're a necessary evil. There's something that has to be there because unit can't combat these threats with sheer force alone. Yeah. And then finally, Dark Side of the Moon, the highlight of the set for me.
I'd have to agree. It's a nice sort of X-Files story.
Yeah.
Nice sort of creepy dead astronaut, bit oxygen in a way, in a sense.
Yeah, there's like this mystery of, is this really the spirit of a dead astronaut who was also a friend of Rix's? So there's a nice personal connection there throughout the story. And once again, it's bringing tension into these characters and having Rix, Bambera, and Savarine have these different motives, what they're going to do. And yeah, it ends in with a nice cliffhanger to leave things tantalizing for where we're going next.
Not long now to find out, really. December.
Yeah, I mean we're about halfway between them, aren't we? But this one ended up coming out in July, didn't it? I was thinking it was because it was originally scheduled for June, but yeah, still, I'm looking forward to seeing where Unit Brave New World goes. It's got its problems, but I feel like it's an exciting enough start point for them to build something great out of.
It's just teething problems, I think.
Yeah, that's it, really, isn't it? I think you could definitely see there's a lot of potential here that I can certainly imagine it living up to very soon. And it's a great trio of characters. Angela Bruce is a tour de force, and she's lovely.
The main takeaway.
It's lovely for her to get this chance to be the leading lady here and do such a brilliant job with Bambera. Because, she's a character who's always deserved more, and it's kind of shocking that it's taken us this long to get around to it. And it's also the sort of spin-off that you would have expected Big Finish to do back in its early days.
Well, they did a unit spin-off, didn't they? Like a 5-part one, and they didn't do Bambera. It's like Time Heal, Snakehead. Yeah, it's bizarre.
You had the Brigadier in one of them, didn't you?
Yeah, the Coop, which is like the pilot episode.
He also comes up in Time Heals and The Wasting, but yeah, he's not necessarily the star of it. He's more just seems to be that. I mean, hopefully we get John Coleshaw turning up in Brave New World at some point, and that'd be good. But yeah, it's nice to have something that feels very separate from the rest of Doctor Who as well. Because certainly with Unit and New series, it's very much always, oh, we got a Doctor Who monster here, Doctor Who monster there. Whereas this now, we're not necessarily getting that, which is interesting because you'd think that's sort of like part of the selling point, isn't it? And these certainly are much less known characters than the ones in Unit New series. So it's strange that they're the ones that seem to more need the extra push. Whereas these ones are doing quite well on their own without any returning monsters. But yeah, Bambera, well deserved, finally getting a spin-off, and it's a solid start.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. So I suppose we've talked about most things now, haven't we?
Yeah, Jago and Lightfoot, we've done a tier list on, so I don't feel like we can. It's good, worth your time. My favourite spin-off. A lot of variety, a lot of fun, wholesome range. It's a good one.
Yeah, I think that was the thing to save for last, isn't it? Because that's very much the pinnacle of World of Doctor Who spin-offs, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just these two great characters who felt like they deserved more and got so much more for a good little while. The series had a great run until the untimely death of Trevor Baxter. But
it's one of those ones where you think if they were both still alive, we'd probably still be getting Jago and Lightfoot.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder what series would be at by now.
Probably about 25. They might have been. They might have done like a Tom thing. I just recorded like bulk recorded a load. I don't know.
Yeah, you never know.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of fun to be out of Jago and Lightfoot. For me, it's the comfort range. It's just a pick-me-up range, really.
That's it.
Yeah, you get a nice. It utilizes a Victorian setting brilliantly, especially in sort of the early box sets like Series 1 and Series 2. Series 2, arguably the best Jago and Lightfoot box set out there. If you want the classic Victoriana stuff with the vampires.
It's very much got that gothic gaslight warmth to it, hasn't it?
Yes, really has.
Like you say, it is quite cozy listens. You have these wonderful characters who are quite comfort characters, aren't they? But at the same time, there is some quite horrific imagery at times in there, particularly with vampires and such and all these different monsters. But in the same way that classic Who makes it feel quite warm and enjoyable, I think this has that same effect.
Yeah.
Jago and Lightfoot, wonderful stuff. If you're a fan of Talons Bling Chang and haven't checked this out yet, definitely give it a go. You will not be disappointed.
Listen to the Mahogany Murderers and then go for it all in order because, you don't have to, but I think it's probably best. Just to get the full enjoyment, especially with like Dr. Tulp being the main bad of Series 1.
Yeah. Also, the early sets, Series 1 to 6, are cheaper on Big Finish at the moment. I mean, most of them download only now. But nevertheless, it is 18 quid per box set there. And then you got to about 30 quid with the later box set. So, yeah, certainly it's worth starting from the beginning there just because, you get more bang for your buck, really.
And they become addictive because you'll finish one box set and it leads it from a cliffhanger. So you're like, I need to know where this goes now.
Yeah, that's true.
There's
not really many other ranges like that, are there?
Yeah, there's not really.
I mean, we did mention Unit Brave New World has a cliffhanger, but that's more like an overarching cliffhanger thing. This is Jago and Lightfoot wraps up one arc within the box set, and then you have a tease for what the next arc is. That's what the cliffhanger is to keep it going. It's like the end credits tease of a Marvel film, isn't it? It's not there to be a cliffhanger for the one you've just watched. It's there to tease what's coming up next. And I mean, it's not exactly a spoiler to say that the tease at the end of Series 10 is the Master Jeffrey Beaver's incarnation, because I mean he's there on the cover of Series 11, he's there. But that was one of the cliffhangers. We were all punching our fists in the air at hearing, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff. And just a very well done creepy scene, like under a bridge as well, where he's like this tramp that needs to be moved along, and then suddenly you hear just the breath of Jeffrey Beavers and like, oh, chills, it's him. And then obviously ends with, I am the master and you will obey me. Yeah, great stuff.
Really good.
Yeah, Jago and Lightfoot, comfort characters, wonderful stories. What more can you want for a Doctor Who spin-off?
Yeah, what a cracker.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a couple we've missed off here, but...
Sure, but I feel like we've covered quite a few bases. Like Cyberman, that's a really good spin-off. Scorpius is one of the best Big Finish audios. I really enjoy it. It's a good opener for any spin-off. It's full of tension and suspense. Good stuff.
Yeah. Lives of Captain Jack may be best avoided now.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I've got volume 2 and 3. I've listened to volume 2. That's all right. I think Peace of Mind, the Sixth Doctor one, is a lot of fun. But overall, that box set didn't really feel like anything special. And then volume 3, I listened to the first story, but then just never really carried on with it, and don't feel the urge to do so, to be honest. So, yeah. And then, I mean, I Davros, that's like a classic, really, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
I've
it's sort of
not
one of the
picked that one
main
up, but
staples.
it's one of those ones that people, at least when we first were getting into Big Finish, it was the one that, oh, you've got to pick up I Davros. This is where Doctor Who gets really good, gets really adult. And it's sort of like one of those things that you recommended to pick up quite early on in your Big Finish journey.
And it's an easy one to get because it's only 4 stories, so it's not like it's going to drain the bank.
Yeah, I think they're all collected together now as well for $12.99 for 5 stories, actually, because you got the Davros mission as well thrown in there. So, yeah, and countermeasures. I mean, this one's hit or miss for me. I never listened to the original series, but I did get some of the new countermeasures where they shifted it into the 70s, tried to shake it up and give it a different style, but it didn't seem to end up working for it because I think poor sales led to this one coming to an end.
See, I've not experienced any of the countermeasure stuff because I've not been too keen on like the actual Doctor Who stories they featured in. So I've sort of
the assassination games, and there was that one in Legacy of Time as well.
Infinity? I don't know.
Yeah, that rings a bell. Split Infinitive, maybe something like that. But yeah, they had the Magellan maneuver and the Dalek Gambit. That was sort of the last new countermeasure stuff back in 2020. They didn't do much for me, to be honest. It was like this coming full circle with the Daleks being back again. But yeah, overall, I can't say I was a fan of those two. So, yeah, and then, I mean, one that I did forget to mention that I am quite a big fan of, the robots. This one slipped our mind. I think because there wasn't a place to naturally segue into it, was there? Because we were going classic series companions, new series companions, whereas this is like a spin-off of its own nature with classic series characters and classic series world, but also a Big Finish original characters in terms of Liv, who is like a mainstay of the 8th Doctor range at this point, and also her sister Tula, who appeared in one story that this is sort of piggybacking off of, because during Ravenous 2, Liv got dropped off for a year on Caldor to spend time reconnecting with her sister. And this series is very much filling that gap with lots of intrigue and business machinations as we really get to explore the company a lot more and their effect on this world, and also the emergence of AI and how these artificial intelligences are developing. And I think what I love about this range is how it does use this futuristic setting as an analogy for our own world and how our own technology is developing at quite a rapid rate. I mean, we've even seen recently with things like AI pictures, how scary that could perhaps be with artistic intent sort of being lost. But yeah, self-driving cars is another discussion where it's talking about the morality of that. Like, what decision should a car make if it's driving towards someone? Should it swerve out the way and hit two other people, or should it keep going on the path it's on and hit the one person who's there? Moral dilemmas like that are sort of played into this through the robots, where they're questioning, how should they save these lives and such. It's fascinating to see those parallels brought to the forefront here. It's also great experiencing more of Paul and Toos from the Robots of Death, because this isn't just a Liv spin-off as such. Within the Robots 2, 3, and 4, you've got a story in each set where Liv and Chula aren't even there. It's more about the world of Kaldor as a whole, and we are instead seeing a arc through the narrative of Paul, particularly, is like the main character of those stories, and has, I suppose, a trilogy of episodes focused on him, which go to some quite dark places, exploring his robophobia. And they are some of the highlights of the series for me, particularly in the Robots 2 and 3, those two stories. So yeah, the Robots 5 is the most recent one. And due to the passing of David Collins, obviously he's not featured in that. He's been written out of the story now via the Robots 4. But yeah, this one tells a story, a much more focused arc within this one, about an implant put into people's head that can edit people's memories and such. And each story is exploring that in a different way. And that is goes to some quite interesting places and very much lives up to what this story has been exploring. This range as a whole, has been exploring. So yeah, I'm excited to see where things go in the Robot 6. I feel like overall this range is very much going to be made or broken by that final story, how well things tie up in the end. So I'm looking forward to that in April next year, because it keeps getting delayed.
Jeez, that's a wait and a half, that is.
Yeah, but yeah, we shall see where things go with the robots. But yeah, I've had a good journey with this range so far. It's one I didn't quite pick up instantly. I put it off for a while before I finally went back to Robots 1, and that's probably the strongest of the lot for me still. I love that first set and the different ideas it explores. It's also quite nice how well planned out this series is. There's a lot of different interconnecting parts and cogs throughout it that come together. And it's one that you benefit re-listening to as well, because you pick up on more of those throughout. So yeah, Robots gets my seal of approval. And yeah, you Ben has definitely got to get around to listening to the first box set, because you brought it ages ago while it was on sale.
Yeah,
and it's still sat there alongside
It's
the
sat there.
Torchwood Soho.
It's gathering dust.
There
I'll get around to it eventually. Yeah.
we go.
It'll
I
be-
think we said when we were planning this, I was like, this is your excuse now. You can go back to it. But that obviously
We're
hasn't
doing
ended up
robots.
happening.
We're doing robots too. This is fine.
Yeah. You got to get all the sets there.
Well, it's okay. I've got until April next year.
Yeah, there we go. Plenty of time to spare.
Plenty of time for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, speaking of time, I think we're pretty much out, aren't we? Been going
Yeah,
for a good
we've
2 hours and a half nearly.
yeah. I think we've covered pretty much all the main bases of Big Finish spin-offs. Yeah, it's been fun. So I guess All what's left to do now is to say what's happening next week, and then our goodbyes, really. So, Luke, what are we doing next week?
We have been talking about this one for a while, but we've been waiting for a certain release, not a Big Finish release, a DVD/Blu-ray release in the form of the Abominable Snowman animation. Yes, we are finally going to be getting around to our animation tier list, since it looks like this might be the end, at least for a while. And so it seems like a good point to look back at all the different animated reconstructions of classic Who we've gotten and rank them all in a nice tier list, because we like tier lists here on the Kurtzman Stuff 11 channel.
It's what we do best.
Yeah. That's all. It's become our thing together, hasn't it? To
It has,
crack a tier
really.
list open and
Let's do a tier list and talk
share
about
our
these things.
thoughts. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because I feel like me and you differ on one big release, which is a Web of Fear.
Yeah. I mean, we've been teasing that discussion for a while, haven't we? But we've been saying, we'll save that for the animation tier list, so we'll see where that falls in the end. But yeah, thank you all for watching. If you're still with us, thank you, Stylish Person, if you're listening or watching back this in the future. And yeah, be sure to share all your thoughts on the world of Doctor Who, everyone. Let us know your favourite spin-offs in the comments.
Or any spin-off ideas you have. Be interested to know what
that'd be
spin-offs you'd want to see Big Finish do. Because we did toy with the idea of doing, like, what if we were Big Finish producers? What spin-offs would we produce? But I guess that's another future thing to do.
Yeah. I think that's all that whole stream idea of its own, really, isn't it? So like,
Yeah.
not just spin-offs, but what would we do with Big Finish in general if we were given the keys to the Big Finish offices?
That'd be interesting. Yeah, that'd be a good one to do. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Thank you, lurkers, for lurking around and just sticking around, having us waffle about Big Finish. Really,
listen to our dumb opinions.
Our dumb opinions, yeah. But
putting
yeah,
up with our controversial takes
of you with your robot love. So it's all good. So yeah. Thank you, everyone, and we shall see you next week for some TV Docky Who in the animation tier list. So all what's left to say is goodbye.
Yeah, take care, everyone.